Some of you may be learning English in an English academy or studying in an organized program online, and some of you may be learning English alone by yourself. In this podcast, I'll share some tips and advice so that you can improve your English by yourself, not only during the summer break, but any time during the year. And we've also received some lovely stories from you by voice message. So we'll be listening to those too, and I'll try to help you improve them. My name's Craig, and welcome to Inglés Podcast. Hello, and if this is your first time listening, welcome to the podcast. And if you're a regular listener, I know what you're thinking. Where's Reza? Well, he's not here this week. He's really busy with work, not only with his teaching schedule and his exams at the end of term, etc., but also with some personal commitments. But I don't want you not to have a podcast this week. So I'm flying solo. It's just me. Speaking of flying, that's what I hope Reza and I will be speaking about next week, if Reza has the time to record. And many thanks to Erasmo from Brazil, who suggested doing a podcast about flying vocabulary and aviation. That will be next week. However, this week, first of all, we've got some fantastic stories from you, and we'll be playing those in a second. These stories are in response to episode 418. Go to inglespodcast.com/418 to hear about a children's story that Reza and I recorded, and you've sent in some of yours. Before we look at the first story from Rafa, I want to tell you about a website I like very much by somebody called Alex Purdell. The website is called CrecerEnInglés.com, and Alex has a podcast that helps you speak in English with your children. So if that is something you're doing, if you're speaking to your children in English at home to get them used to the language at a very early age, then I suggest you go and listen to Alex's podcast, and I will link to his website in the show notes over at Inglés Podcast. So first this week, a voice message and a story, our very first voice message from Rafa.
Hello, my name is Rafa. I am going to share my story with you. Once upon a time, there was a girl named Rafa who really liked the dogs. One day, when she was coming back from school, she found a puppy in the street. Then she gave him a piece of the bread, and the dog followed her. When I got home, she went in with the dog, also hid it under the bed. When his mother came home, Rafa did not know how to tell him that he had a dog. So when he was about to tell him, they knocked on the door, but also the dog ran out. When his mother saw the dog, this mother got upset. She opened the door, and to this surprise was the owner of the dog. We thanked Rafa for taking care of her dog. So Rafa was saved by the doorbell. Thank you for your attention. Bye.
Thank you very much, Rafa, for sending in your story, and I'm going to help you with one or two things to improve it. The first thing I noticed was the pronunciation of some of the words in your story, and it made it a little difficult to understand. The first word I noticed was puppy, which is a small dog, isn't it? A baby dog. But you pronounced the word with the O sound. You said poppy. Now, poppy, if you are a Spanish speaker, I think you are, is amapola. It's a flower. It's a lovely flower, but it's also the flower that opium or heroin comes from, the base ingredient, the poppy, the red poppy. So poppy, the O is the flower, and puppy, the A sound, a puppy, is the small dog. And also there were two words that have silent letters. Now I know English is a crazy language. We have these crazy, mad spellings, words like K-N-O-W, but the K is completely silent. We don't pronounce it. So no is the correct pronunciation. No. I know your name. Your name is Rafa. I know it. And exactly the same silent word in knocked. If you knock on the door, come in, you're knocking on the door, that K is a silent K. So it's to knock and knocked. There's the T sound at the end. The ED is pronounced T, knocked. And the same with the past tense of thank, thanked, thanked. And when open is in the past with ED, the pronunciation is opened. So I'm going to read the story again. And what I suggest is that you copy my pronunciation. So play the podcast, repeat after me, sentence by sentence, and copy my pronunciation. Hello, my name is Rafa. I'm going to share my story with you. Once upon a time, there was a girl named Rafa who really liked dogs. One day, when she was coming back from school, she found a puppy in the street. She gave him a piece of bread, and the dog followed her. When they got home, she went in with the dog, who hid it under the bed. When his mother came home, Rafa did not know how to tell her that they had a dog. So, when he was about to tell her, they knocked on the door. But then, the dog ran out. When his mother saw the dog, his mother got upset. She opened the door, and to her surprise, it was the owner of the dog. We thanked Rafa for taking care of her dog, so Rafa was sad without the dog. A lovely story. Another thing, Rafa, that I noticed was that there was some confusion with the pronouns. Now, you said Rafa is the girl. It's a girl in the story, but you used the pronoun him, which confused me. But it should be her, because her is the female pronoun and him is the male pronoun. And another thing I noticed in the sentence, they knocked on the door, but also the dog ran out. I think that should be, but then the dog ran out, or suddenly the dog ran out. So take note of those 2 or 3 things, and thank you again for sending us your story. Our next story is from Jose from Ecuador.
Hey guys, my name is Jose. I'm from Ecuador, and I want to tell you a story about me when I was a child. My house is near to a river, so me and my friends used to play on the shore. Sometimes we tried to catch fishes, and sometimes we cross it. At some point, our parents realized what we were doing, so they were very concerned about it. Indeed, it was very dangerous, but it was very funny. Therefore, they decided to keep us away from the river, so they came out with the idea to tell us that there were snakes on that river, and a person was caught trying to cross and died. So every child in my crew was afraid to go in there, and until today, some of my friends does not like to go in there. So that's my story, guys. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Jose. Another lovely story, and that sounds like a very true one. So, snakes in the river. Very interesting. 1 or 2 pronunciation points. First of all, your pronunciation was clear. I understood the story. I could follow the story, and it held my interest. I was very interested in what happened with your friends crossing the river. So, well done with the telling of your story. You said that my house is near to a river. No to, there's no preposition. So my house is near a river. You can say close to a river. You can also say next to a river. But with near, there's no preposition. So just near a river. And the shore, S-H-O-R-E, you use the word shore to describe the sides of the river. We tend to use shore when we're speaking about the sea, the seashore. You could also say the shore of a lake. But when we're speaking about a river, the sides of the river, we say the river bank. B-A-N-K. Exactly the same word as the place where you keep your money. So, I played on the river bank, or my friends played on the river bank, or near the river bank. You also said it was very dangerous, but it was very funny. I would probably say a lot of fun. So if it's funny, then you're laughing, ha ha ha, a funny film, a funny joke, for example. But if you have a good time, you're enjoying yourself, then you have fun. So it was very dangerous, but it was a lot of fun. We enjoyed ourselves. Now, I'm not sure exactly what phrasal verb you used here. I don't know if you said they came out with the idea or they came up with the idea. The correct preposition is up. So if you come up with something, you think of it. It occurs to you. I came up with a really good suggestion in the business meeting, for example, or our friends came up with the idea of crossing the river. So to think of something, to invent something, when something occurs to you, then you come up with something. And another thing I noticed was we don't tend to use the plural of fish. We don't tend to say fishes. I would say I went to catch fish, or I caught a fish. Be careful of the pronunciation of the past of catch. It's caught, C-A-U-G-H-T. I caught a fish. And you use the word crew to describe all of your friends together in one group. You said every child in my crew. Yes, crew is a collective noun for a group of people, but in this situation, I would use the word gang, G-A-N-G, a gang of kids. We used to go out together in a gang, so it was a gang of children. With the word crew, it tends to be more like team, so you might have the ground crew at an airport, for example, or the flight crew on an aeroplane. So it's often a team of people that are working for one common thing. Again, thank you, Jose, for sending in your story. And our next story is from Erica. And this is a story about a kidnapping.
Hello, my name is Erika. This is not my story, it's the story of Dan. Well, his name is Dan, and is a very happy 6-year-old boy with a well-formed family, dad, mom, and sister. Everything seems perfect so far. However, this is going to change soon. His family decides to go to the circus. Everything is louder. However, close to them, the desperate cries of a mother are heard saying that she lost her son. Then, Dan's mom neglects herself. Consequently, she neglects Dan. Meanwhile, someone grabs Dan and takes him away. As you suppose, Dan was kidnapped. Indeed, Dan was kidnapped. On the other hand, Dad's mom doesn't find Dan. Start her search, and in the same way Dan's father does. Then they decide to call the police.
Oh, Erica, what happened? It stopped. You stopped in the middle. I think you ran out of time. There was no more time for you to tell us about the end of the story. So now, how can I sleep? How can I go to bed without knowing what happens at the end of the story? Do they find Dan? Do the kidnappers want money? Is there a ransom? Please let us know what happens at the end of the story, and we will put it in the podcast next week. But let's go back, Erica, and see how we can improve your story a little. One thing I did notice was the pronunciation of kidnapped. Again, it's got that sound at the end. The ED, when kidnap is in the past tense, has a T sound. So it's kidnapped. Kidnapped. So let's start at the beginning, and I'll try to help you improve it a little. Hello, my name's Erica. This is not my story, it's the story of Dan. Well, his name's Dan, and it's a very happy 6-year-old boy. Okay, we can improve this a little, Erica. First of all, the pronoun. So obviously it's a boy. We're not going to call Dan a thing, so we need the pronoun he. So he's a very happy. And 6-year-old boy, I would change that to 6-year-old boy. So the 6-year-old becomes an adjective describing the boy. 6-year-old. A 6-year-old boy. With a well-formed family, dad, mum, and sister. Well-formed is okay, but it sounds a bit strange to me. Maybe a lovely family, or a really nice family, or a happy family, a perfect family would be a little better. Everything seems perfect so far. However, she's going to change soon. I like the suspense here. You're creating an atmosphere of anticipation and tension here, Erica, in your story, so that's very, very good. But again, there's the problem with the pronoun, because it can be confusing. You say she's going to change. Is that the mother or the sister? It's going to change would be better, because the pronoun it refers to the situation. Everything seems perfect so far. However, it's going to change soon. His family decides to go to the circus. Everything is, and I think you said louder, but maybe lovely would be better. So everything is lovely. However, close to them there's a parade, and the mother is heard saying that she loves her son. Then Dan's mum neglects herself. I'm not sure what you mean by neglects herself. Perhaps she's not paying attention. If you pay attention, then you're focused on what's happening. So she loses focus. She's not aware of what's going on. And consequently, she neglects Dan. Again, maybe pay attention would be better here. So consequently, she doesn't pay attention to Dan. Or she stops paying attention to Dan. Meanwhile, someone grabs Dan and takes him away. If you grab someone or something, then you take it quickly, sometimes with force, very roughly. You grab something, you grab it, you take it quickly. So grabs Dan and takes him away. And it's supposed Dan was kidnapped. Use supposedly here. So supposedly Dan was kidnapped. On the other hand, Dan's mum doesn't find him. On the other hand here also doesn't quite fit, because this is a consequence of something. The story's going forward, and it's better to say as a result or consequently, Dan's mum doesn't find him. Start a hard search, you said, or maybe better to say they search intensively. You can also say they search high and low. If you search high and low, you search everywhere for something. I lost my keys and I searched high and low, for example. So they searched high and low, and in the same way Dan's father does. So again, we can rephrase that to improve it a little and say Dan's mum and dad both searched everywhere for him, but they don't find him, so they decide to call the police. So let me say that one more time, Erica. I'll tell the whole story so that you can repeat it after me if you want to improve it. Well, his name's Dan, and he's a very happy 6-year-old boy. With a lovely family, a dad, mum, and a sister. Everything seems perfect. However, it's going to change soon. His family decides to go to the circus. Everything is lovely. However, close to them there's a parade, and the mother is heard saying that she loves her son. But Dan's mum isn't paying attention, and consequently, she stops paying attention to Dan. Meanwhile, someone grabs Dan and takes him away. Supposedly, Dan was kidnapped. They search high and low. They search everywhere, but they don't find him, so they decide to call the police. So Erica, what happens? Do they find Dan? Please let us know what happens at the end of your story. Our next story comes from Ecuador, and it's Wilder, his vacation story.
My vacation story. Hi guys, my name is Wilder. I'm going to tell you something about my vacation time. Every year when classes finish, my family and I, we plan where we travel. We also decide how many days we will spend in that place. Additionally, we prepare what kind of clothes we need. When everything is ready, first of all, I check the car before traveling. Secondly, I make a list with the necessary things to travel. And finally, we're ready. When we are traveling, we stop for something special. For example, we like to take pictures, to buy things, and eat rich food. Our last trip was to Manabi province. My kids were very happy when they saw the beach again. Consequently, they tried to enjoy every moment on vacation. Goodbye, guys. This was my short story. I am from Ecuador.
Thank you, Wilder. I really enjoyed listening to your story, and it sounds very organized. I suppose with children it has to be very organized, but you really plan your vacation. There's no impulsive just going to see what happens. You check the car, you make a list, you pack your clothes, prepare everything. Very, very organized. So thanks again for sending us your story. Next, we have a voice message from Christian, who tells us about a story that seems true from when he was very young and what happened with him and his twin brother.
Hi guys, this is the story about me and my twin brother. When we were babies, my parents confused all the time. So one day my mother bothered one because it's very complicated to both at the same time. After that, my father bothered another twin. However, he confused and he bought the same twin inside of dirty twin. Consequently, when they have to leave the house with the twins, they realize that one of them is small bad, and without time, they bothered another twin. Due to my parents arrived late for their meeting. Okay, this is my history. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Christian. I enjoyed listening to that, and I think that's probably true. So let me go back, read the story, help you with one or two suggestions. And before I do that, actually, one or two pronunciation things that would make the story easier to understand, because you mispronounce the word bathe, B-A-T-H-E, which is probably the most important word in the story. Now, if you have a shower in your house, you can have a shower. Some people have baths, B-A-T-H. If you have a bath, then you fill the bath with water, you sit in the bath and you wash yourself. Or if you have children, small children, you can bath your children. You can also use the verb to bathe, B-A-T-H-E. You bathe your kids, you bathe your children in the bath. The vowel sound of that word is A. Another confusion was with the two words story and history. Those two words are commonly confused. Now, story is what you told us, Christian. You told us a story of when you were small. History is a subject you study at school. You can study the history of your country, the history of the Americas, the history of the European countries. So going back years and remembering the dates and the important events that happened over time. So don't confuse those two words, history, the subject, and story, which is something you tell your friends. So Christian said, "Hi guys, this is the story about me and my twin brother. When we were babies, my parents confused all the time. You need the pronoun us there, confused us all the time. Obviously, because they were twins and they looked identical, it was very easy to confuse them, who is who. So my parents confused us all the time. One day my mother bathed one because it's very complicated to bathe both at the same time. After that, my father bathed another twin. However, he confused it, you said. Better to say he got confused. He got confused. And he bathed the same twin inside of, I think you said, but the correct word is instead of. Instead of, in place of. So instead of the dirty twin. And be careful of the pronunciation of dirty. The vowel sound is dirty. Consequently, when they had to leave the house with the twins, they realized that one of them smelled bad. One of them was still dirty. And without time, better to say, although short of time, they bathed another twin. And then I think, Christian, you said, where to? My parents arrived late for the meeting. I would use a different expression because of this. Again, this is a consequence, the action that happened as a consequence of something else. So because of this, my parents arrived late for the meeting, or due to this, my parents arrived late, or consequently, my parents arrived late for the meeting. So I'll read that one more time, Christian, in case you want to listen back, stop the podcast and repeat after me. When we were babies, my parents confused us all the time. So one day, my mother bathed one because it's very complicated to bathe both at the same time. After that, my father bathed another twin. However, he got confused and he bathed the same twin instead of the dirty twin. Consequently, when they had to leave the house with the twins, they realized that one of them smelled bad. And although short of time, they bathed another twin. Because of this, my parents arrived late for the meeting. And thank you, Christian, and thank you all of you for sending in your stories. If you haven't sent in one and you would like to, go to speakpipe.com/Ingles podcast, and we would love to feature your story on the podcast and, if necessary, help you to improve it. Remember that with this SpeakPipe, you only have 90 seconds, which is why we still don't know what happened in Erica's story at the end. Now, if you are living in the Northern Hemisphere, you might be approaching the summer holidays, which for many of you means you'll have a break in your studies. If you're at school, college, university, if you're studying in a private English academy, this is the time of year when the studies break up. We can use the phrasal verb to break up, to stop for the summer break. So it's really important to keep in touch with English. Don't lose touch with the language so that when you come back after the summer, you want to have the same level, if not an even higher level of English. So what can you do? Well, try to bear in mind, which means take into consideration or think about the 4 skills. You've got reading, listening, writing, and speaking. And it's probably a good idea to practice all 4, but if you can't, then focus on the skill or skills that are your weaker skills, that you know you need to practice more than the others. So if you're practicing reading, read books. I suggest reading a book in English that you have read before in your language because then you know what happens in the book. It's easier for you to follow. You won't get frustrated, and you can relax a little and focus more on the way the writer uses English and absorb some grammar points and vocabulary as you're reading. So make sure you read at least one book this summer. Or maybe you prefer comics. That's okay too. If comics are in English, if that's your thing, then read as many comics as possible. Or blog posts. Whatever your interests are, go on the internet, find blogs that you're interested in, and read lots of blog posts about your favorite subjects. Maybe that's photography or travel or cooking or video games, whatever your interests are. Make sure you do some reading around your interests so that at least you won't get bored. And the same is true with listening. You need to be listening to content that you're interested in. Let's take podcasts, for example. You're listening to this, which is great, but what are your interests? What do you like doing in your free time? Search for podcasts in English that speak about your hobbies and pastimes. What are your favorite TV series? Are you watching them in your language? Well, change over to English during the summer and watch films and TV series and YouTube videos in English. If you need to improve your writing, maybe start a learner diary every day during the summer. Write down what you have done each day in English. Plan out your week. Set your goals. We'll speak about goals in a minute. And every day you can comment on what you've done, what you've achieved. And that really does help you get organized and give you a sense of achievement over the summer. And again, that idea of connecting with your hobbies and your pastimes, join Facebook groups, go on Reddit, answer questions on Quora, whatever websites you like to go to, whatever social media platforms you enjoy, go there and use English as a language of communication in subjects that you like to talk about and read about. So interact online in English around your hobbies and pastimes and interests. And if you're really into something, if you're really keen on something and you're a huge fan of, cooking, for example, maybe you're a big foodie, then why not start your own blog in English? You can write about food that you like and take some photos, start a blog, and if you enjoy writing about it and researching it, then there's a bigger chance that you'll continue and it will be more productive for you. And finally, speaking. Now, this is a little bit more difficult. There may be people in your area that you can join with and speak English in cafes or pubs. Sometimes you can find language exchanges in some areas. But if there isn't one, you'll have to go online and find a language partner. Or maybe you could start your own group and find 2 or 3 people who are also interested in speaking English and they have more or less the same level as you. Then get together either face-to-face in person or online and make sure you practice on a regular basis. Once or twice a week will be great. And whatever you decide to do over the summer, try to incorporate and include English in your weekly schedule. So block off time in your week. That means be deliberate and close 1 hour on a Tuesday or Wednesday or a Thursday or half an hour every day for English. That is the time when you're going to focus on the areas of your English that you need to improve. So be deliberate and make sure you block off time and save time on a regular basis for your English studies. And if you're going to set goals for your English this summer, make sure the goals are SMART goals, S-M-A-R-T. The S is specific, the M measurable, A achievable, R realistic, and T time focused. So remember those 5 letters, SMART. If you want to go to inglespodcast.com, you'll see these notes there. Specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time focused. Let me give you an example. Maybe you say that this summer your goal is to expand your vocabulary. What does that mean? Expand your vocabulary. That's not really a goal. That's more like a dream. Okay, I want to speak better English. That's not a goal that you can easily identify and accomplish. A smart goal would be something like this. I will be able to remember and correctly use 20 new phrasal verbs in written and spoken English by July the 31st this year. I will have used them naturally and in context in emails and messages to friends and in my weekly English conversation group at least once. So in that goal, it's very specific, I can measure it, it's realistic, and I know when I achieve it, and there's also a time limit of July the 31st. So these SMART goals are the kind of goals you need to think about and set yourself for the summer. And now it's your turn to practice your English. Please send us a voice message. Go to speakpipe, speakpipe.com/Ingles podcast. You can tell us about your goals for this summer or for this winter if you're in the southern hemisphere, or you can send us a story from when you were younger. If you want to reach me, you can send me an email to Craig, Craig, @inglespodcast.com. And to send an email to Reza, his email address is belfastreza, Reza, @gmail.com. If you would like a paid course to help you with your English this summer, go to store.mansioningles.net, where you'll see a range of courses that you can buy. And before I go, I'd like to thank all of you who are helping us by supporting this podcast on Patreon. You can be a Patreon supporter too for as little as $1.20 per month. That's the minimum, and it's including VAT, value-added tax. If you sign up, you get instant access to recent transcriptions. For more information, go to Patreon, patreon.com/Ingles podcast. Reza and I really appreciate all your support on Patreon. Unfortunately, there's no time to list every single person who is supporting us, but we will say thank you to our most recent supporters who have joined us this month. Thank you to Juan Miguel Marabel Gonzalez, Ana Robles, and Marga Arisa, who is supporting us for more than the $1 minimum. Thank you very much to you and to everyone who's supporting us on Patreon. On next week's podcast, hopefully with Reza, we'll be speaking about pilots, flying, and aviation vocabulary. If you enjoyed this podcast, please tell your friends so that more people can listen. And thank you very much for keeping me company on my own this week. Until next time, it's goodbye from me. And even though he's not here, I'm sure it's also goodbye from Reza. The music in this podcast is by Pitts. The track is called See You Later.